You wanted us on the West Coast? Yogi Roth, you got us on the West Coast. Utah versus UCLA, Saturday, 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 local time, kickoff. Fox has this game. They don't call me Pac-12 Pate for nothing. I will cover the Pac-12 like the Pacific Ocean covers the beach. Horrific metaphor, but I'm going to stick with it because we're live. Both of these teams are coming off big wins. Utah housed Oregon State last week, and it was a Friday night game, but you saw what UCLA did to Washington. What is Utah? This is what I wanted to get to. We still got Utah at number 7, I think, in the JP poll. What is Utah? I think if a lot of you are honest with yourselves, the Buck Risings of the world, the last time you watched Utah, be real, was week 1. A lot of you, not all of you. And a lot of you saw them fall to Florida in week 1, didn't you? And therefore, a lot of you probably cast aspersions on the good name of Utah. And more importantly, you did what Meemaw told you not to do. You made a conclusion about a team in week 1. You didn't just observe. And you may have shortchanged yourself and shortchanged Utah in the process. We still got Utah in the top 10 because I think they're still one of the best 10 teams in the country. They are one of 3 Power 5 teams that are top 12 in scoring offense and scoring defense right now. Since week 1, they are number 2 in FBS in point differential. They have just cruised merrily along. They lost a competitive game on the road in week 1. It's happened before. They are still very much a contender for all their preseason goals. Last 4 matchups in this series, this is a jarring statistic. The last 4 times that Utah played UCLA, they have won by a combined 182-54. They've dropped at least 40 in every one of those games. So the big question in this matchup is this a different UCLA team? How different? They don't just need to be different, they need to be substantially different. UCLA's path here, they've got to break the pass defense statistic. They got to make sure that after the dust settles out there in Pasadena Saturday, that people are looking and saying, Utah had some impressive numbers in the pass D category, but it turns out they just hadn't played a team like UCLA yet. Utah's number 1 in the Pac-12 in pass D. Have they been tested? It is fair to ask that question. Okay, there can be 2 truths. You can be totally legitimate and have not been tested, and once you get tested, you'll prove your legitimacy. Or there could be another truth, and that is your statistics are kind of fool's gold because you hadn't been tested. What is Utah? I happen to believe in them, but what is Utah? Because the plays could be there. For all we know, the plays could be there. Dorian Thompson-Robinson playing the best ball of his career. His last 8 games, the quarterback there for UCLA, he is a 73% completion guy. He is an 18-4 touchdown to interception ratio guy. He got 6 rushing touchdowns for good measure over that span. And it's not just him. We talked in the preseason about how this was Chip Kelly's shot because a lot of programs were in transition out there. And also he had a very, very veteran, sort of stable in the backfield. Quarterback, running back, Zach Charbonnet leads the Pac-12 in all-purpose yards right now at running back. So there are plays to be made here, potentially. That is UCLA's path to win in this game as a short underdog at home. Is the spark starting to happen for that program? Kind of goes back to what we were talking about in the preseason. If it was going to happen, it was my opinion that this is the year for it to happen for Chip Kelly. Well, it could have already started to happen, and we kind of didn't know it. Now that we start to get a little length of bone on the last few games, their first 40 games at UCLA under Chip Kelly, they scored 28.8 points per game. Their last 8, they've hit the 44 points per game mark, a little over that, actually. So 8 games, still kind of a small sample size, but not really. That's 2/3 of a season. Are we starting to see it? Are we starting to see it scale a little bit? Well, this is one of the bigger games they've played in quite a while. And it's one of Utah's biggest games. They're in total back against the wall mode already because Utah doesn't just fancy themselves as a Pac-12 championship contender. Make no mistake, Utah still believes themselves to be a college football playoff contender. Well, obviously there's no margin for error by way of them losing in week 1. Let's take a look at what the model thinks. Let's take a look at what Vegas thinks, or a reminder. Utah is a 4.5-point favorite on the road in the Rose Bowl. I don't know what factor crowd will be here. Look, regardless of whether you have 5 people or 5 million people there, you got to outplay them. Utah very rarely hands you a game. You got to outplay them. The model is a little shorter on this number. It's an interesting It's an interesting parallel here. The number in Vegas, Caesars line right now is Utah minus 4.5. The model has Utah minus 2. Jesse said something earlier today, and I think I agree with it. For all the talk about DTR all week, I actually think this may be a game Cam Rising has one of the best statistical performances of his season. Now, Jesse likes him because he's his twin. I like him because I think he plays pretty good football, and it's really time. It's really time for him and that team in general to atone for what they weren't able to do on the road in week 1. I think this is the spot they do it. I'm going to take Utah to win. They're just more desperate a team right now. And I'm also going to take them to cover. I want to stress, I don't have a strong feeling about the spread in that game, but I am going to lean Utah to win the game. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. Make sure you like the video and please subscribe to the channel. Not just for me, that's how we keep this entire thing free.